Writing variant equals document ID equals 58321. Daddy, don't make him leave. The words stopped Ethan Carter colder than any boardroom silence ever had. He stood beneath the yellow glow of a street lamp, staring across a crowded Chicago sidewalk at a sight that made no sense. His 10-year-old daughter, Lily, sitting beside a battered guitar case, singing with a poor street musician as if the two of them had known each other forever. Lily. Ethan's voice was low. What are you doing here? Singing. With him? Yes, Daddy. 3 short answers. 3 little cuts through the certainty of a man who had spent his life believing every problem could be solved with money, planning, and control. Ethan was 39, a billionaire before most people his age had bought their first home, yet in that moment he felt strangely powerless. The November air carried the smell of roasted chestnuts from a nearby cart. Car horns whispered through the traffic, and somewhere above them an elevated train groaned along its tracks. But beneath all that city noise was Lily's voice, soft and uncertain, rising beside the worn guitar of a stranger. Ethan looked at the man. Noah Bennett appeared to belong to another world. His brown coat was faded at the cuffs. His jeans were clean but old. His guitar case held a few dollar bills and scattered coins, nothing close to what Ethan might spend on coffee without thinking. Noah looked up calmly. No fear, no performance, no desperate smile aimed at the billionaire standing in front of him. Just quiet dignity. How do you know my daughter? Ethan asked. I don't, Noah said. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Then why is she singing with you? Noah glanced toward Lily. You should ask her. Ethan almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about the ache in his daughter's face. Lily, we're going home. Please. Her voice changed. Just one word, but it carried something Ethan had not heard from her in months. Need. Hope. Maybe even trust. He crouched beside her. Sweetheart, you can sing at home. You have a piano. Lily looked down at the guitar case. It isn't the same. Ethan felt the words settle somewhere deeper than pride. At home, Lily had a piano worth more than Noah's entire apartment could ever be. She had private lessons, a music room, and every opportunity money could provide. Yet she had barely sung since her mother died. Ethan had told himself she was simply grieving. He had hired specialists. He had filled the house with comfort. He had given her everything except the one thing she seemed to be asking for now. Someone willing to listen. Ethan reached into his coat and pulled out his wallet. How much? Noah's expression barely moved. Excuse me. For the time. For the music. Whatever she owes you. Noah shook his head. She doesn't owe me anything. Ethan placed a $100 bill on the edge of the guitar case. Noah quietly picked it up and held it out. I said no. Ethan stared at him. A street musician had just refused $100 from a billionaire. Then Lily whispered, he didn't ask me for money, Daddy. He just listened. And F. : Writing variant equals document ID equals 74126. Noah looked at Ethan for a long second, then gently placed the $100 bill back into his hand. I am not taking that. Ethan stared at the bill. You need it. Maybe. Then take it. Not for this. Lily watched them both, her small hands resting on the worn guitar beside her. The city seemed to move around them, taxis passing beneath the glow of storefronts, people hurrying home through the cold November evening. Yet Ethan could hear only those 4 words in his mind. Not for this. He had spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Investors wanted his signature. Executives wanted his approval. Strangers wanted photographs. Charities wanted checks. Even people who called themselves friends often seemed to measure their words by the size of his bank account. But this man had looked at a $100 bill and simply said no. Ethan slipped the money back into his wallet. Then tell me what you want. Noah gave a quiet smile. Nothing. Ethan's expression hardened. Nobody does something for nothing. Noah looked toward Lily. She asked me to listen. That is all. Ethan glanced at his daughter. What exactly did you tell him? Lily hesitated. Her blonde-brown hair moved gently in the cold breeze. I asked if I could sing. Why? Because he was playing. Ethan looked down at the guitar. It was old, the wood worn smooth around the edges from years of use. And you just walked up to him? Lily nodded. You were supposed to be at your piano lesson. Her eyes dropped. I know. Ethan felt irritation rising, but beneath it was something more uncomfortable. He had arranged that lesson himself. A private teacher. A heated music room. A polished black piano worth more than most families earned in years. Everything had been planned perfectly, yet Lily had left all of it behind to sit on a sidewalk with a stranger. "Why did you leave your lesson?" Ethan asked. Lily did not answer. Noah did not answer either. That silence bothered him more than an argument would have. "Lily," she finally whispered, "the teacher kept asking me to sing this song." Ethan went still. He knew which song she meant. The one her mother used to hum while making breakfast. The one Lily had sung in their living room on the last morning they had all been together. After that, the song had disappeared from their house. "You do not have to sing it," Ethan said softly. Lily looked at him. "I know. Then why did you?" Her eyes moved toward Noah. "Because he did not tell me I had to." Noah lowered his gaze to the guitar strings. His fingers rested there without playing. Ethan studied him carefully. "How long have you been doing this?" "Playing on the street?" Noah asked. "Yes. A while." "How long is a while?" Noah considered the question. "Long enough to know when someone needs music and when someone needs silence." Ethan felt something shift inside him. It was not admiration. Not yet. It was curiosity. This stranger had understood something Ethan had missed for months. Lily was not asking for another lesson. She was not asking for another gift. She was asking to be heard. Ethan looked at his daughter, then at Noah. "Play it again." Noah raised his eyes. "What? The song?" Lily looked surprised. Ethan swallowed. "Play it again." Noah slowly positioned his fingers on the strings. The first note drifted into the cold air, soft and fragile. Lily began to sing. Ethan did not interrupt. He did not check his pH. By the time Asher Cole turned the key in the old Mustang again, the afternoon sun had softened over the empty highway, painting the windshield gold. The engine settled into a smooth, steady hum. Serafina Lancaster stood beside the driver's door, watching him with an expression that was harder to read than before. "You fixed it," she said. "That was the idea," Asher replied. "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing." She frowned. "Nothing." Asher wiped his hands on the rag tucked into his back pocket. "You were stranded. I had the tools. That is enough." For a moment, she simply stared at him. People did not usually help Serafina without asking what they could receive in return. They wanted contracts, introductions, favors, access. Even kindness often arrived with a receipt attached. But Asher had already turned away, carrying his toolbox back toward his battered pickup as though repairing a valuable classic car for a stranger was nothing more than an ordinary Tuesday. "Asher." He stopped. "You really do not want anything?" "I have a 9-year-old waiting for dinner," he said, glancing toward the truck. "That is plenty." Something changed in her eyes. Not pity. Not admiration. Something quieter. Respect. "What is his name?" "Elliot." "How old?" 9. She smiled faintly. "You talk about him like he is your whole world." Asher looked down at the dusty pavement. "He is." The words came simply, without performance. Serafina had heard executives speak for an hour about family values. Yet somehow those 3 words carried more weight than all of them. A warm breeze moved across the roadside grass. Somewhere beyond the trees, a cicada buzzed beneath the fading light. Serafina glanced at the Mustang, then back at Asher. "Where are you headed?" "Home." "That tells me nothing." "Small town. 20 minutes east." She almost laughed. "You are remarkably difficult to interview. Good thing I am not applying for a job." Her smile disappeared for half a second. The answer touched something she had not expected. "Maybe you should be." Asher looked at her. "I am not looking." "Why?" He hesitated. Then his eyes drifted toward the pickup where a child's blue backpack was visible through the rear window. "Because I spent years trying to build a career. Then I lost my wife. After that, I stopped caring about impressive." Serafina lowered her gaze. "I am sorry." "Thank you." No dramatic speech followed. No explanation. Just 2 strangers standing beside an old Mustang while the sun disappeared behind the fields. Then Serafina reached into her handbag and pulled out a small business card. She offered it to him. Asher looked at it without taking it. "You sure? It has my number." "I figured. If you ever need work, call me." Asher finally accepted it. The card was thick, elegant, and strangely heavy between his grease-stained fingers. He glanced at the name printed across it, then at her. "What kind of work?" Serafina paused. For the first time, the powerful woman behind those guarded gray eyes seemed uncertain. "The kind where someone notices what you can do." Asher slipped the card into his pocket. "Good night, Sarah." Her expression softened at the nickname. Good night, Asher. He climbed into his pickup and drove away, leaving her beside the Mustang. She watched his taillights disappear into the amber distance. Then she looked down at the business card she had kept for herself, the one carrying a name the world knew very well. Serafina Lancaster, founder of Lancaster Holdings. Billionaire. Owner of companies across the country. And for reasons she could not yet explain, the only thing she wanted that evening was to know more about a struggling single dad who had no idea who she was. Harlan barely made it through the service corridor before Lauren's voice stopped him. Mr. Briggs. He paused. Yes. Wait. He turned slowly, his mop resting against one shoulder. Lauren stood several feet away, still wearing her black training uniform, but the confidence that usually surrounded her had thinned into something quieter. About earlier, she said. You do not owe me an explanation, Harlan replied. I know, she said. That is what bothers me. For a moment, neither moved. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and somewhere beyond the corridor, an elevator chimed softly. Harlan looked at her without judgment. He had learned long ago that people sometimes needed silence before they could tell the truth. Lauren folded her arms. How long were you in the Marines? Long enough. That is not an answer. It is the one I have. Her jaw tightened. You always talk like that. Only when someone asks questions they already think they know the answers to. That landed differently. Lauren looked away. The polished executive who could command a boardroom suddenly seemed like a woman standing beside an old wound, unsure whether touching it would make it worse. I found your file, she said quietly. Harlan's expression did not change. Then you found what you were looking for? No. I found something I was not ready to see. He waited. She took a breath. Jason Pike. The name changed the air between them. Harlan lowered his eyes for the first time. Not from shame. From memory. He was your friend, he said. Lauren stared at him. You knew? I knew his name. Did you know what happened to him? Every day. 3 words. No defense. No excuse. Lauren's fingers loosened around her arms. The article made it sound like you ruined his life. Harlan looked toward the narrow window at the end of the corridor. Rain had begun tapping softly against the glass. The article left out what happened afterward. What happened? I stayed. Lauren frowned. Stayed where? At the hospital. Then rehabilitation. Then wherever Jason needed someone to answer the phone. Her eyes narrowed. Why? Harlan gave a small, tired smile. Because leaving would have been easier. The words settled between them. Quiet. Heavy. Honest. Lauren swallowed. Jason never blamed you. I know. Then why did you disappear? Harlan's gaze dropped to the floor. Because forgiveness does not always feel like permission to forgive yourself. Lauren had no answer for that. The hallway seemed suddenly too narrow for all the years standing inside it. She remembered Jason in the hospital, his calm voice, his stubborn smile, the way he had told her that accidents did not have to become identities. She had forgotten that part. Or perhaps she had buried it beneath ambition, trophies, contracts, and control. You could have told me, she whispered. Harlan shook his head. You needed to see me without the story. And now you know enough. Lauren looked at his worn work shirt, his old boots, the faded badge clipped near his chest. You are raising a daughter, working 2 jobs, and cleaning floors after everything you have done. Harlan nodded. That is my life. You are not embarrassed? No, his answer came instantly. My daughter needs a father more than the world needs another man proving himself. Lauren went still. There it was again. That quiet strength she could not defeat because it was never trying to defeat her. She looked down, then back at him. I am sorry, Harlan. He studied her face. For Jason. For today. A long silence followed. Then Harlan picked up his mop. That is a good place to start. Lauren watched him walk away, his footsteps soft against the polished floor. And for the first time in years, the woman who had built her entire life around control understood something simple. Dignity was not the absence of failure. It was the grace to keep choosing character after failure had given you every reason to become bitter. 2 days passed, and Valencia Innovations returned to its usual rhythm, but Lauren could not return to hers. The apology had been simple, almost painfully simple, and somehow that made it harder to dismiss. Harlan had not demanded forgiveness, recognition, or even trust. He had simply accepted her words and gone back to work. No speech. No victory. No need to be seen. Lauren sat behind her glass desk that morning, staring at a quarterly report without reading a single line. Schedule the wellness event, she finally said. Her assistant paused. This Friday. Yes. Everyone. Everyone. The call ended, and Lauren leaned back slowly. She had told herself the event was about leadership, discipline, and workplace wellness. But the truth was less comfortable. She wanted Harlan in that room again. Not because she wanted to embarrass him. Not anymore. She wanted to understand how a man carrying so much history could still move through the world with such quiet grace. By Thursday afternoon, the invitation appeared on every employee screen and in every break room. Team building Friday. Casual attire. Attendance required. The message was brief, polished, unmistakably Lauren. Within minutes, employees were whispering, "Is this another leadership demonstration?" Probably. "Does anyone know why Harlan is listed as a participant?" Nobody answered. Downstairs, Harlan read the invitation while standing beside his cleaning cart. Emily's school picture was tucked into the corner of his locker, her smile slightly crooked, one front tooth missing. He looked at the screen, then at the photograph. "What do you think, Bug?" he murmured. Of course, there was no answer. Just the soft buzz of the hallway lights and the distant clicking of office shoes. Harlan folded the printed notice and placed it in his pocket. He had no interest in another spotlight, but he had learned something about second chances. Sometimes they arrived disguised as uncomfortable rooms. Friday evening came beneath a pale California sunset. The corporate training room had been rearranged. Chairs formed a wide circle. A whiteboard stood at the front with 3 words written across it: control, respect, choice. Lauren entered first, dressed simply in dark slacks and a navy blouse. No executive jacket. No black belt. No polished performance. Employees gradually filled the room. Then Harlan appeared through the side entrance. He was still wearing his work clothes, clean and pressed, with the same quiet expression he carried every morning. Lauren looked at him. "Thank you for coming. You invited me." "I did." A pause. "I want you to teach something." Harlan glanced at the whiteboard. "Teach what?" "What you know." Several employees exchanged uncertain looks. Harlan almost smiled. That could take a while. A few nervous laughs moved through the room. Lauren did not laugh. "Then start with one thing." Harlan looked around at the people watching him. Some had seen him as a janitor. Some had seen him as the quiet man who swept a billionaire CEO onto a mat. Almost none knew what he had once been. He walked toward the center and stopped. "Strength," he said. The room quieted. "What do you think strength is?" One manager answered, "Control." Another said, "Confidence." Sarah, sitting near the back, whispered, "Knowing when to stop." Harlan looked toward her. "That is closer." Lauren's eyes lowered. Harlan continued, "Real strength is not proving that you can take control. It is knowing when control is no longer necessary." The words landed softly. Then Lauren noticed something on the table beside him. A worn photograph. She recognized the face immediately. Jason Pike. Harlan had brought him into the room, but not as an accusation. As a reminder. And Lauren suddenly understood that Friday's lesson was never meant to be about fighting at all. The room had gone quiet, but Harlan did not rush to fill the silence. He stood beside the photograph of Jason Pike, one hand resting loosely against the edge of the table, his expression calm enough to make everyone else uncomfortable. "Who was he?" someone finally asked. "A friend," Harlan said. "A good one." "The best." "What happened?" Harlan looked down at the photograph. "An accident changed his life." Lauren lowered her eyes. The whiteboard still carried the words control, respect, choice, but now they felt less like a leadership exercise and more like a confession nobody had prepared to make. Outside the training room, rain tapped against the windows, soft and steady, while the air conditioning hummed above them. Harlan took a slow breath. "Jason taught me something I forgot for years," he said. "What?" Lauren asked. "That a person is more than the worst day of their life." Nobody moved. Harlan continued, his voice even. "I was responsible for an accident. I accepted that. I lived with it. But Jason never asked me to become a prisoner of it." Lauren looked up. "He never blamed you." Harlan met her eyes. "No, then why did you leave?" "Because I blamed myself." 3 words, and the room seemed to become smaller. Sarah shifted in her chair. An older employee near the window lowered his hands into his lap. No one was checking a phone anymore. Harlan did not offer a dramatic confession. He did not ask anyone to feel sorry for him. He simply told the truth. After the accident, People saw two versions of me, he said. The instructor who should have prevented it. The father who needed to go home. Lauren whispered, and you chose Emily. Every time. The answer came without hesitation. I chose her school plays, her dentist appointments, her homework, her bad days, her good mornings. I chose being there. Lauren swallowed. You never regretted it. Harlan gave a faint smile. I regretted what happened. I never regretted my daughter. The distinction was quiet, but it carried more weight than any speech could have. Lauren stared at the photograph again. Jason had always believed people deserved second chances. She remembered him saying it when they were younger, usually after someone made a mistake and expected punishment. At the time, she had thought forgiveness was softness. Now she wondered whether it had always been strength. Harlan, she said, what do you want people to understand about you? He looked around the room. Nothing. A few people blinked. Nothing, Sarah repeated. I do not need them to understand me. Harlan glanced at Lauren. I need them to understand the difference between judgment and truth. Lauren sat very still. That sentence was not an accusation, but she felt it anyway. And what is the difference? She asked. Harlan looked toward the rain-streaked glass. Judgment decides what someone is. Truth takes the time to learn why. Silence returned. This time it was deeper. Lauren slowly stood. She walked to the table, picked up Jason's photograph, and studied his younger face. He would have liked you, she said. Harlan's eyes softened. He already did. Lauren looked at him, confused. Harlan nodded toward the photograph. That was Jason. He liked people before they earned it. Lauren's breath caught. For years, she had believed respect was something people had to prove they deserved. Harlan was showing her another kind. The kind given freely, carefully, and without needing anything back. Then the training room door opened, and a young woman from the finance department stepped inside, holding a folder. Lauren, she said nervously, there is something you need to see. Lauren turned. What is it? The woman glanced at Harlan. It is about Jason Pike. And suddenly, the quiet room was silent again. Lauren did not take the folder immediately. What is it? She asked. The young woman swallowed. An archived personnel record. I found it while checking Jason Pike's service history. Harlan remained still. Lauren noticed that immediately. He did not reach for the folder. He did not ask what was inside. He simply looked at the woman and said, Where did you find it? A restricted archive from the Marine Corps record system. It was attached to an old administrative review. Lauren's eyes narrowed. Administrative review? The woman nodded. There was more to the accident than the article said. The room seemed to lose its warmth. Rain continued tapping against the windows, but nobody seemed to hear it anymore. Lauren opened the folder carefully. The paper smelled faintly of dust and old cardboard. Inside were several photocopied pages, a faded photograph, and a formal report stamped with a date from 12 years earlier. She scanned the first page. Her expression changed. Harlan. He finally stepped closer. What? This says the training exercise was altered that morning. Harlan stared at the document. I know. Lauren looked up sharply. You knew? I knew something was different. I did not know who changed it. The young employee pointed to a paragraph near the bottom. That is why I brought it to you. There was an internal review, but it was closed before anyone outside the unit could understand what happened. Lauren read faster, then slower. Her confidence disappeared by degrees. The original exercise called for a controlled demonstration, she said. Yes. But the sequence was changed. Yes. And you were assigned to supervise it. Harlan nodded. So they blamed you because you were the instructor. Not exactly. Lauren looked at him. What does that mean? Harlan took the folder and turned to the final page. His finger rested beside a signature. I signed the statement accepting responsibility for the outcome. Lauren stared at him. Why? Because Jason needed care. His family needed answers. The unit needed someone to stand there when everyone else wanted the matter closed. That is not an answer. It was the answer I could live with. Lauren's eyes filled with disbelief. You took responsibility for something you did not cause. Harlan shook his head. I was responsible for the exercise. That part was true. He paused. But responsibility and blame are not always the same thing. The sentence silenced her. Sarah looked between them, suddenly understanding why Harlan had never defended himself publicly. He had not been hiding a secret because he was guilty. He had been carrying a burden because someone had to carry it. Lauren turned another page. There, beneath the official language, was a handwritten note from Jason. Lauren recognized the handwriting instantly. Her breath caught. That is his. Harlan looked away. What does it say? Sarah asked softly. Lauren read it twice before speaking. He says, do not let them turn this into a story about blame. Harlan closed his eyes. Lauren continued. Harlan did everything he could. I want the truth, but I do not want his life destroyed to give me one. No one spoke. The rain grew heavier against the glass. Harlan reached for the photograph inside the folder. It showed 3 younger Marines standing outside a training facility, smiling beneath a bright Virginia sky. Harlan stood on one side. Jason stood beside him. The third man was unfamiliar to Lauren. Who is that? She asked. Harlan looked at the photograph for several seconds. Major Daniel Mercer. Lauren waited. He was the officer who approved the revised exercise. Her eyes returned to the document. Where is he now? Harlan's expression remained calm, but something changed in his eyes. That, he said quietly, is what I never knew. Lauren looked at the last page again. A current corporate address had been handwritten in the margin. Her face went pale. It belonged to someone she knew. Someone sitting on Valencia Innovations board. And suddenly the old story was no longer buried in the past. It was sitting inside her company. Lauren stared at the handwritten address until the letters seemed to blur. That cannot be right. Sarah stepped closer. I checked it twice. Who owns the address? Harlan asked. Lauren did not answer immediately. She knew the name. Everyone at Valencia Innovations knew it. Daniel Mercer was not simply a board member. He was one of the oldest investors in the company, a quiet man with a reputation for discipline, charity, and impeccable judgment. He had advised Lauren's father. He had advised Lauren. And for the last 6 years, he had sat 3 seats away from her at every major board meeting. Mercer, Lauren finally said. Harlan's face remained still. You know him? I have known him for years. Then we should talk to him. Lauren looked at him sharply. Not tonight. Why? Because if this record is authentic, I need to understand what I am looking at before I accuse anyone. Harlan nodded once. Good. Lauren frowned. Good. That is what respect looks like. The words were quiet, but they landed harder than criticism. Sarah closed the folder. There is one more thing. Lauren turned. What? The record was accessed 3 weeks ago. Harlan's eyes narrowed slightly. By whom? Sarah hesitated. Someone using an executive access code. The room changed. The rain outside had become a steady silver curtain against the windows, and the old photograph of Jason seemed almost painfully bright beneath the fluorescent lights. Lauren reached for the folder. Which executive? Sarah looked at her. Your access code. Lauren froze. That is impossible. I know. I was not in the archive. I know. Then someone used my credentials. Harlan watched Lauren carefully. She was no longer the confident executive from the beginning of the evening. For the first time, she looked like someone standing at the edge of a truth that might change everything she thought she knew. Do not call Mercer, Harlan said. Lauren turned toward him. Why not? Because if he is innocent, you embarrass him. If he is not, you warn him. Lauren held his gaze. Then what do you suggest? Find out who accessed the file. Sarah nodded slowly. I can check the security logs. Lauren looked at her. Can you do it without alerting information technology? Not officially. Then do it unofficially. Harlan raised an eyebrow. Lauren immediately corrected herself. I mean, use whatever authorized internal process you can access, without notifying the board. Sarah almost smiled. That I can do. She took the folder and stepped toward the door. Then she stopped. What about Jason? Lauren looked at Harlan. He was holding the photograph again. His thumb rested over one corner, careful not to cover Jason's face. Jason wanted the truth, Harlan said. Not revenge. Lauren nodded. Then that is what we find. Sarah left. The door clicked shut. Lauren and Harlan stood alone beneath the humming lights. You should go home, Lauren said. Emily is waiting. Harlan checked his watch. She is probably asleep. You still go home. He looked at her. Always. Lauren's expression softened. Harlan. Yes. If Mercer really changed that exercise, she stopped. Harlan waited. You lost 12 years because of it. I lost some things. That is not what I said. He looked toward the rain. I know. Lauren stepped closer, her voice quieter now. You could have fought to clear your name. I could have. Why did you not? Harlan looked down at Jason's photograph. Because every time I thought about proving myself, I pictured Jason waking up and wondering whether his life had become evidence in someone else's argument. Lauren's eyes glistened. You protected him. I protected his peace. Another silence. Not empty. Not awkward. Something gentler. Lauren finally understood that Harlan had not been hiding from the truth. He had been protecting what remained after it. Then Sarah's phone rang from the hallway. Once. Twice. 3 times. She rushed back through the door, pale and breathless. Lauren, what did you find? Sarah held up her phone. The archive was accessed from inside this building. Harlan stood still. Lauren whispered, by whom? Sarah looked directly at her. Daniel Mercer. And this time, neither of them spoke. Lauren stared at Sarah, as if the name had changed the temperature of the room. Daniel Mercer? Yes. Are you certain? The access record is clear. Could someone have used his credentials? Not without leaving another trace. Harlan said nothing. He simply looked at the folder, then at Jason's photograph, as though 12 years had suddenly folded into one quiet moment. Lauren walked to the window. Below, the parking lot shone beneath the rain, headlights sliding across wet pavement like pale streaks of memory. He sits on my board, she whispered. He advised my father. And he accessed Jason's file, Sarah replied. 3 weeks ago. Lauren turned. Do not tell anyone. Sarah hesitated. Not even security? Not yet. Harlan finally spoke. Good. Lauren looked at him. You keep saying that. Because you are learning to slow down. This is not a lesson. Everything is a lesson if you are willing to see it. The words were calm, almost gentle, and somehow that made Lauren more uneasy than anger would have. Sarah placed her phone on the table. There is another record. Lauren stepped closer. What record? A visitor log. Mercer came into the building the same night the archive was accessed. Lauren's face tightened. What time? 8:17 in the evening. Was he alone? According to the camera log, yes. Harlan glanced toward the clock. It was nearly 9. Emily would be home with her neighbor, probably finishing homework and waiting for her father to call. Harlan reached for his phone. Lauren noticed the movement. You are leaving. My daughter comes first. Harlan, this could be the answer you have waited 12 years for. He looked at her. And Emily still comes first. 3 simple words. No anger. No drama. Just character. Lauren watched him call home. Hey, Bug. His voice softened immediately. How is homework? A small smile appeared on his face. You finished already? That is suspicious. Sarah looked away, giving him privacy. Lauren stood still, listening to the warmth in his voice. This was the man she had once seen as a nameless employee. A man she had judged from a headline. A man who had carried grief without allowing it to turn him bitter. When the call ended, Harlan slipped the phone into his pocket. She is waiting. Lauren nodded. Go. He took 2 steps toward the door, then stopped. Lauren. Yes. Do not confront Mercer tonight. Her eyes narrowed. Why? Because truth does not need you to rush it. He left. The door clicked shut. Sarah exhaled. He really is different. Lauren looked. At the empty doorway. No, her voice was quiet. He is exactly who he has always been. I am the one seeing him differently. The next morning, Lauren arrived before sunrise. No assistant. No executive car waiting at the entrance. She entered through the main lobby and went directly to the security office. The building smelled of fresh coffee and floor polish. Screens glowed in the dim room. Pull every access record connected to Daniel Mercer, she said. The security manager looked uncertain. For what period? 12 years. He blinked. That is a lot of data. Then start. An hour later, Lauren sat before a monitor as records appeared across the screen. 1 visit. 2. 5. Then dozens. Mercer had entered the building repeatedly during years when Lauren's father was still alive. Some visits were ordinary. Board meetings. Investor sessions. Charity events. But several occurred after midnight. Lauren leaned closer. What happened 12 years ago? The manager enlarged one entry. Date, September 14th. Time, 11:42 p.m. Visitor, Daniel Mercer. Destination, private conference room. Lauren stopped breathing for a second. Who else was here? The manager searched. His fingers clicked softly across the keyboard. Then he froze. There was another visitor. Who? He turned the screen toward her. Lauren stared at the name. It was Harlan Briggs.